As advertised, it's time to get off the highway again with Farmweek adventure reporter Zac Ashmore. This week, Zac is sticking a little closer to home, but he found a little out-of-the-way rural attraction that will take you back in time. And by the way, have a pencil ready. At the end of the piece, Zac will give you a way to reach out with your own ideas. Here's Zac Ashmore, Off the Highway.
I'm a stranger man, I'm a stranger man, I'm a stranger man.
Welcome to Off the Highway, a show where we explore hidden gems all across the state of Mississippi that you ought to know about. I'm Zac Ashmore, your host, and today we're sticking close to my hometown of Starkville, Mississippi. Today we're going to the Oktibbeha County Heritage Museum. Come on and join me.
The Oktibbeha County Heritage Museum, located on Fellowship Street in Starkville, Mississippi, was founded in 1976 during the United States Bicentennial. The doors first opened in 1979. Joanne Wilson's been volunteering with the museum for many years, and she gave us a brief history of it.
The building that we're in is a depot that was moved here from down by the railroad tracks down the road, and is a building that was built in the 1800s. The annex was added on in the 70s.
The main entrance to the building is where they sold tickets for the trains. The display area you see here is where they stored supplies to be put on the trains.
This museum covers multiple time periods dating back to the 1800s, when Oktibbeha was still a new and young county, all the way to modern day. It celebrates major events, people, and the life of this community, both urban and rural. One of the interesting things about the museum is that it's all volunteer run.
We have one employed person, and that is to take care of the grounds. But throughout the state, we have been looked at as quite unique to be able to function such a fine museum as this.
Starkville was originally called Board Town due to a nearby lumber mill that produced clapboards. After becoming the county seat, it was renamed to Starkville, and has been growing ever since. The museum has collected many historical artifacts that originate from the area's business, agricultural, and manufacturing sectors.
What is it? You're gonna have to come here to find out.
Although the museum is quite small, only covering 3 rooms, every corner is filled with local history and flavor.
What we feel is good about this museum is it appeals to adults and children. We have the children's corner in the back where we have a fire truck for them to play in, a house, a dollhouse, which children don't play with dollhouses anymore. We have a typewriter for the young people and the old people like the typewriter. We have a little discovery table with rocks and magnifying glasses. And we have a rotary telephone, which again is young and old. And then we have the exterior, which is not a playground, but is also a learning experience, because the exterior landscaping is an example of best practices in water retention. So not only do we have history, we have nature.
When you come to small museums like this, you end up finding things out about the community you never knew, such as Starkville's where they invented T-ball.
At least that's what they say. Oktibbeha County celebrates several sports stars that are from the area, along with major cultural and business figures as well. So, how do museums like this keep going into the future? I asked Mrs. Wilson what she thought.
For me, I am the 2nd generation to work with this museum. And what we need now is the 3rd generation, because we have some exhibits, say Lindbergh. You get the younger generation in, who's Lindbergh? We have wonderful I Love Lucy doll. Who was I Love Lucy? So we need, and we do have our museum board, which is an all-volunteer group, is working on future planning of programming, of exhibits, and also try to get more up-to-date in, and that's the Hershey Hall clock. That is the Hershey Hall clock, which was loaned to us by the Arnold family. Mr. Arnold was part of Arnold Industry, which had Hershey Hall clocks. And this is one of the very special clocks that Hershey produced.
All of the items in this museum were donated by locals, like this dentist chair, donated by the local Dr. Oakley. You might not want to see this.
All kidding aside, there's so much culture packed into every nook and cranny of every small town in Mississippi and America. Museums like this one might appear to be tourist traps, but there's so much more to them than meets the eye. Mrs. Wilson summed it up in a really good way.
Well, personally, I think Mississippi has a wonderful, wonderful, interesting history. And in order to appreciate that, museums collect that history, and hopefully we will understand the value of that history.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Speaking of value, I always look for something special every time I go somewhere, and at this museum, I found a genuine 1800s top hat, and as you all know, I'm a fan of a good hat. Mrs. Wilson also has a favorite.
It's probably the crazy quilt that we have, because I've always been fascinated in crazy quilts because they were made from different fabrics. They pull the family together, they pull history together. Just the work, that's probably my favorite. And then the I Love Lucy doll.
One of the cool things about small towns in Mississippi is that they tend to honor their heritage. You should check out to see if your hometown has a museum like the one in Oktibbeha County. Well, that's it for this week. But if you know of any places I ought to know about that are off the highway, send me a line. Who knows? Maybe next time I'll be off the highway in your hometown. Until then, take care.